The fundamental question that is faced by sports is, do they want, will the industry ever allow somebody to tell the truth on the air? But I don't think that today that will ever happen again. I don't think the industry will allow it.
Dino Costa. This is Dino in the morning on Sirius XM Sports Zone, Sirius 92 XM 208.
It is the gathering place. It is the home for morning sports radio across North America and around the world. It is making its mark, day 2, with a new name, Dino in the Morning, on new stations. It is Sirius XM Sports Zone Radio, which consists of Sirius 92 and XM 208. 2 in the hopper, 2 to go as we're going straight ahead till 11 a.m. on the East Coast, 8 a.m. out on the West Coast. It's Andrew Kaplan producing on this Friday, September the 6th. 866-522-2846. 866-522-2846 on the phones. Richard Sandomir, sports media columnist with the New York Times. Is it still the paper of record? No, right? You don't consider the New York Times the paper of record anymore, do you? Do you? I don't. No, I've never really considered it to be the paper of record, but some people do. A lot of people do. Yeah, I've never fallen into that category, though. So we got our college football tomorrow. I mentioned earlier on the show here today some of the games that I'm looking forward to tomorrow, and going to be at a college football game myself tomorrow, and watching. You know, when we get into the football season, my weekends are absolutely wrecked because most weekends, if I'm not at a game, by the way, Kaplan, find out where College Game Day is tomorrow. Are they in Ann Arbor tomorrow? Chris Fowler and Herb Street and the boys, Lee Corso and Desmond Howard. I'm going to be talking about ESPN later in the show with Richard Sandomir from the New York Times and talking about some sports media issues, of course. And, one of the things that you look at the rise in popularity in the last 25 years in this country for college football, the passion, the pageantry, the overall popularity of college football, the money that has been injected into the collegiate game, especially over the last 25 years. Have you found out where the College Game Day crew is tomorrow?
They will be at Michigan.
So in Ann Arbor?
Yeah.
Right. So I look forward to that. That's the best. I don't understand these people who talk about the NBA TNT pregame show, and boy, this is just, it's must-watch television, and it's, Ernie and Kenny and Barkley, and they added, what's his name, Shaq this past year, and some of these people that cover sports media, they trip over themselves handing out, all these flowery praises to the NBA TNT pregame show. I just don't get it. It's not there is not one pregame show, in fact, in this country outside of the game day experience on Saturdays with the aforementioned Fowler and Herb Street and Corso and the rest of the cast and crew. There is not one pregame show that does anything for me. Not one, except for ESPN College Game Day. Built, of course, we've always got to mention this, by the Home Depot. But getting back, and I'll note this with Richard Sandomir because it was part of the excellent 3-part piece that he collaborated with James Andrew Miller on in the New York Times last week. You look at the growth and the explosion in popularity of college football, and love ESPN or hate ESPN, you've got to admit that it doesn't happen without ESPN. It just doesn't happen without ESPN. And they have been direct, and I didn't know this, and again, I'll detail much of this in the conversation I'm going to have with Richard Sandomir. I was, aware of the fact that ESPN has, exerts certain amount of influence and control, particularly with the monies that they pay, the various conferences and the teams and the Longhorn Network and the SEC Network and all that. I didn't recognize nor realize just how much power ESPN has when it comes to college football. So, and I don't want to spoil it. We'll get to some of that coming up with Richard Sandomir next hour. I will get to your phone calls. Please be patient. 866-522-2846. And I'm really looking forward to this game that's going to be in the Superdome this Sunday, the Falcons and the New Orleans Saints. And it's going to be very interesting. I mean, this was a division last year, of course, that was not very good. I mean, Atlanta was the cream of the crop, and 13 wins last year. Everybody else, I believe, if memory serves me correctly, everybody else was under 500, including the Saints, who were 7-9. The Panthers were 7-9. The Buccaneers, I think, even they were 7-9. So this is a division that bears watching to see if it's going to be a division that's going to be any better this season. But the Saints themselves, with all the turmoil that they went through last year with the Bounty Gate and Sean Payton being suspended, and it just was not a good year for them. And the defense was not bad last year for the Saints. And Spagnuolo, their former defensive coordinator, paid with his job, and Rob Ryan is now the defensive coordinator down there in NOLA. But that was a historically bad defense for the Saints last year. I mean, they allowed the most yards in NFL history. Now, there's two ways of looking at that. And again, we get back to my feeling that the NFL is well too offensively geared. And maybe it's not a surprise that, the Saints allowed over, I think it was 7,000 some odd yards last year. They allowed more yards than any other team, any other defense in the history of the NFL has ever allowed, thus the changing of the guard in defensive coordinators. And they tried to address some of their defensive needs in the draft, of course, with Kenny Vaccaro and the defensive tackle that they got, John Jenkins. So this is going to be an interesting season for the Saints. They come in with high expectations, and Sean Payton is back. They've got some talent on this football team. And, you look at what Drew Brees has to operate with, and on offense, I mean, you have depth in the backfield and guys that can carry the ball, and Pierre Thomas, and they worked Aaron Sproles in there as a change of pace sort of a back, third down back. Sproles can be, kicked to the outside. They put him in pass patterns, and Jimmy Graham is a terrific tight end, and they've got some receivers in Colston, the kid out of Hofstra, where they no longer play any football, of course, and the other one, Lance Moore. So they've got some talent on offense. I think scoring points is going to be something that the Saints are going to get back to doing very well this year. It's on defense again that we're going to have to see if New Orleans is going to make some strides. But as I mentioned that they have talent on offense, they also have talent on defense as well. But the thing that I wonder is, can they get a consistent pass rush? Can they play better in the secondary, which was horrible last year? Can they get off the field on third down this year, which was a terrible problem for the Saints last year? So we'll see. And Atlanta goes in there. The Falcons are clearly the best team in that division, and they're a team that should win their division again. And I think that the Falcons, as I mentioned yesterday, are one of 5 very strong teams in the NFC that I think can get to a Super Bowl this year. They did come close last year. Tony Gonzalez comes back for one more season. They upgraded the running back position, of course, by bringing Steven Jackson in. They have perhaps in tandem the 2 best wide receivers in the NFL when you look at guys like Julio Jones and Roddy White. And, Matt Ryan is a franchise-type quarterback, can make all the throws, completes a high percentage of his passes, maybe the highest percentage in the NFL last year, if I can remember. The offensive line, though, is a concern for the Falcons. It's going to look different this year. I said this a couple weeks ago when I was talking about the Falcons. One of the things I was very interested in observing with them with the draft was that they do have offensive line issues, and they did not use any of their draft picks to bolster their offensive line. We saw last night Gino Gradkowski replaced Matt Burke at the center position for the for the Ravens, and Todd McClure, the Falcons' terrific center, retired after last year, and they released, you remember, the right tackle, Tyson Clabo. So the line is going to look different this year. That is a concern. Defensively, they trade out basically John Abraham, who signed with Arizona eventually, and they brought in O.C. Umenyiora from the Giants. They've got one of the best linebackers in the league in Sean Weatherspoon. So we'll see. I mean, they did draft some defensive backs in utilizing their draft picks with Desmond Trufant and Robert Alford. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to this game because this could be a buzzsaw situation that the Falcons are coming into on Sunday at the Dome in Seattle. I think they're the better team, but they may not win this game this Sunday. So we'll see. You know what? I want to take that back. They may not win the game. I don't take that back. But I think that they will win the game. I think they will win the game. So that is one of the games I'm looking forward to this Sunday. Another game I'm looking forward to is in Chicago with the Bears and the Bengals, the Packers and the 49ers, the Sunday night game with the Giants and the Cowboys, and I'll talk more specifically about all these games moving forward as the NFL with a full slate of games coming up this Sunday, the Sunday night game, and then 2 Monday night games, the Eagles and the Redskins, the Texans and the Chargers. And Kaplan, earlier, last hour, before I get to the phone calls, one more thing. I'm not a guy that likes, I didn't finish my thought on this, I would prefer, actually, that the National Football League open up their season every year with all the games on Sunday instead of one primetime game to open it up on a Thursday night. I would prefer that they just have a full slate of games, on the opening weekend on a Sunday.
Yeah, make the first Sunday special.
I would do that.
Yeah.
I would do that. But for marketing purposes and visibility and exposure, I mean, you had a limited schedule in Major League Baseball last night, but the NFL owned the day, they owned the night. When they muscle their way in, it's all about the NFL. So I can understand why they do it. It doesn't really annoy me too much, but if it were up to me, I would rather see the schedule have all games on Sunday to open it up every year. But that's just me. I know there's a lot of people that would disagree with that thought. The games this weekend, real quick, the Patriots and the Bills. Thank you, Mr. Joshua. The Titans and the Steelers, Falcons and the Saints, I mentioned. The Buccaneers and the Jets. I'll get to that game as well. Chiefs and the Jaguars. I've got some things to say about the Chiefs. Seahawks and the Panthers, Bengals and Bears, as I mentioned. Dolphins, who I think are on the upswing and will win that division this year. Dolphins and the Browns, my opinion anyway. Vikings and the Lions, Raiders and the Colts. I mentioned the Packers and the 49ers. Interesting game that I'm interested in, the Cardinals and the Rams, Giants and the Cowboys, and the 2 games on Monday, Eagles and the Redskins and the Texans, and the San Diego Chargers. 866-522-2846. To the phones I go, kicking it off here, hour number 4. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA. Here is Steve. He's on Dino in the Morning, hour number 3 on Sirius XM's Sports Zone Radio. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Dino. Good morning, buddy. Listen, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I got to point out something that popped up in glaring fashion last night during the game and during the halftime show in particular. I'm a lifelong football fan and player. I've played since I was in 2nd grade all the way up through D1 college. So I'm a huge fan of the game, and I actually read the book that you've been promoting on here, the Daniel J. Flynn book, The War on Football, which is an absolute
you got that book. Good for you. Good for you. You got that. Good. What'd you think of the book?
I mean, it's phenomenal. If you're a fan of the game, you have to read that book. There's no excuse. No excuse not to read that book. It was some of the statistics in there and the stories were just off the charts great. Thank you for the recommendation on that book. It was
well,
awesome.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And before you go on, I think it's imperative I say it again because I made mention when I first found that book that I would make mention of that book at least once every show up until the Super Bowl coming up in February of 2014. It is required reading for everyone who has an interest in not only the NFL or in college football, but in the industry of football across the board. It is required reading. It debunks so much of the misinformation and the reckless propaganda that is disseminated by the majority of the mainstream media who don't know their ass from their elbow as far as the ins and outs of football is concerned. Daniel J. Flynn, terrific book. Go get it. The War on Football, Saving America's Game. It's in bookstores right now. You can order it online. It is not only required reading for any NFL and college football fan out there, it is, in my estimation, it is required reading for anyone who makes a buck in any capacity covering football on any level. Everyone who covers football should be forced to read that book. And I'm sorry, Steve, continue. Go ahead.
Well, that's okay. Well, getting back to what I was going to mention here was we all know that the NFL and the media, they're all concerned about their concussions. But they don't seem to be as concerned about obesity. Now, you mentioned you didn't go to the game last night. You watched it on TV. But did you notice who sponsored the halftime show?
You know, I did not. I was upstairs. I went up to get something to eat at that time. Who sponsored the halftime show?
Burger King. Okay? And if you watch the game, there was about 15 commercials advertising the French fry burger, the Burger King's putting out now. God knows how many calories are in that thing. Now, Dino, once I saw that, it stuck out. So what did I do? I went on Google, and I Googled childhood obesity. 1 in 5 kids now are obese in America. Not overweight, not to lose a couple pounds, but obese. And we got people worried about kids putting on some pads and going and running around on a field and getting some exercise. I mean,
well, listen, one of the
joke.
One of the
not
chapters.
To mention all the Pepsi commercials I saw last night.
Well, no question. Listen, there are more kids being hurt by what's in the cabinets in kitchens across this country than by playing football. And one of the chapters of the book, I don't know if you've gotten to it yet, is that, and I've talked about this, is that football does a body good. And there's no question about it. And the author goes on to explain what he means by that. But you're right. I mean, look at the garbage that's being consumed by kids on a regular and consistent basis these days. Look at the fact that kids are sitting their fat asses in front of computers for hours on end. Look at the fact that the parents are not encouraging their kids to play as much outside, to be involved in sports, to exercise, all that stuff. It is all contributing much more toward the downward spiral and the continuing negative health of kids, much more so than anything football related.
You know, one more thing, and this is totally unrelated. Now that you're in the morning, you got any Team Dino hats still left over from before?
I got new Team Dino hats that are coming. Actually, they're Dino in the morning hats, so stay tuned for information about all that. In the gorgeous brown and gold colors with the raised embroidered lettering across the front. So we're going to have news on that coming up real soon. Back to the phones. Cortland, New York. Here's Guy. He's on Dino in the Morning, hour number 3 on Sirius XM's Sports Zone Radio. Hi, Guy.
How you doing, Dino? Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I heard you talk about ESPN earlier, and I just wanted to remind you very politely that now that it's football season, the ESPN interview rules are back in effect. Let me give you an example. If you're talking to a college player, never, ever, ever ask that player who their favorite professor is. That is wrong. And never, ever, ever ask that player what their favorite class is. These are questions that are just unfathomable. And if you're going to talk to a professional player, please, at all costs, do not ever ask them what they think. Only ask them what they like and don't like. Otherwise, you might get to the truth. And thank you. Thank you for asking questions that get us the truth. I appreciate that, Mr. Costa. Please have a good day.
Thank you, Guy, in Cortland, New York, where the New York Jets, despite the fact that at taxpayer expense, I believe, built an elaborate new training facility in Florham Park, New Jersey, yet continue to hold a training camp, for the most part, in Cortland, New York, for the last couple of years. It's never made any sense to me. And I'll get to the Jets and Rex Ryan and the stuff like that. No, I got to get some baseball in here as well before we're all done. And Richard Sandemir's coming up from the New York Times at the top of next hour. Trenton, New Jersey. Brian is on Dino in the Morning, hour number 3 on this Friday. Hi, Brian.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Brian.
Really excited you're in the morning. I used to listen to you on I work an overnight shift and I travel. I used to listen to you on the way in, and I was surprised the other day because I turned to this station to listen to the other show that was on there, and they've since moved. I missed the whole thing. I guess I whiffed on that I don't know how I did that. I know you were lost in translation for a while there. Can you explain to me briefly how it happened?
Well, this is the second day of the show here in the morning on a new channel, and if you, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the second day of the show on this new channel, and for months, if you've been listening to me, for years actually, I've been looking to get out of the hours that I was on for so long at Sirius XM, and an opportunity presented itself. I became aware several months ago that this opportunity could be had. Couldn't really say anything about it, but I'm delighted to be here and, heading up this new channel and looking to do some great things.
I think my phone has a terrible connection here. The other thing is take it easy on Michelle Beadle, because it's getting old seeing all these emaciated skin and bones looking women. I don't think there's anything wrong with her. I'm sorry, you do.
Well, listen, you're right. I think we are such a superficial society, right? We really are. But let's cut to the chase here. Let's talk in realistic terms. 95% of women who are in the news media, on the visual medium of something that we've called television for a long time, especially when it comes to sports media, 95% of these women that are involved in sports media on the visual medium of television are very attractive looking women. Very attractive. And to say that hiring decisions by a vast number of programmers are not made based upon the visual aspects of a woman who wants to be in sports media, to say that this doesn't have anything to do with it would to be considered to be naive. So I guess my advice and listen, this is advice that I'm giving out freely. Michelle Beadle would, in all likelihood, tell me to take my advice and shove it up my ass, and maybe she'd be right for that, but still the same. I guess what I'm trying to do is give Michelle Beadle some career-preserving advice in that, look, she's a perky girl who is a cute, good-looking young lady, and a lot of that went into her success earlier in her career. There's no question about that. And, I'm just a word of caution or two to Michelle to lay off the Haagen-Dazs, late at night, especially after the hours of 7, 8 o'clock. You get all those carbs and all that sugar that sits. And if you don't go to the gym and you don't exercise, it could become very problematic for somebody like Michelle. And I like Michelle. I'm just saying. And Michelle would readily admit, if she's honest, she would admit, yeah, Dino's right. I have put on a few pounds here, getting a little wide toward the bottom there, and it could eventually come back to hurt me. So, but the caller's right in that we are so superficial when it comes to life. Look at if you're a guy and you're going out with a girl right now, or you're married to a woman, you never spoke with them before you actually were introduced. You introduced yourself to them. They introduced themselves to you. You didn't know what was going on inside their brain. And for the most part, in most cases, you were attracted physically to the person at the outset. Otherwise, the meeting probably wouldn't have taken place. So let's be honest. It's not only, media, magazines, advertising, marketing, pictures, so on and so forth. This is a world and a society that has always accentuated the beautiful, the striking, the gorgeous. And I don't see anything, if anything, it's going to get even worse. I mean, look at all the products that are out there to keep you healthy, to keep you young, vibrant, vitamins, workout magazines, all kinds of diets that are developed to keep the pounds off, and eating healthy, and the advent of health food stores. And I mean, all this stuff it's all tied together, man. It's all tied together. So put a bow tie on this. And just, again, I did mention Michelle last night. She was down by the Inner Harbor in Baltimore. She was one of the hosts of the NFL pregame show on NBC. And I love Michelle. I love her. And I want to see her do well, and especially with these striking, gorgeous women that continue to come into the sports media. I don't want to see Michelle lose some of the things that allowed her to get to the point where she's at right now. And one of the things I theorized when I talked about Michelle Beadle last hour was that she's gotten a little complacent here. She's making big money now. She's doing the Bridgestone tire commercials. I just want to see her, maintain and even go further than where she's at right now. And she's not going to do it by, listen, the Ben & Jerry's and the Haagen-Dazs, Kaplan, is just not going to get it done for her.
No, you said it's a visual medium. She's got to look good.
Got to look good. You got to look good. You don't look good, you're going to be off the TV. No two ways about it. Does anyone truly believe, can we talk factually here? Does anyone truly believe that Michelle Beadle is going to be attractive to television programmers, network programmers, being heavier? Is she going to have that same effect? Of course not. No. Why? And tell me this before I get back to your phone calls here. Why do 99%? See, I have this theory that every now and then, to mix it up and to show that these programmers don't make these decisions based on visual sort of imagery, that occasionally, they'll bring in someone who's not exactly, the woman who's going to be modeling a bikini anytime soon. But that is rare, and that's the extreme exception to the rule. Here's my point, Kaplan. Why is it that 99.5% of all women that are hired in sports media, as far as television personalities, update anchors, news readers, sideline reporters, so on and so forth, you never see women hired for these jobs that would scare tap water back up the tap?
Yeah, because men are watching and men want to see attractive women.
Of course. Of course. Quartzside, Arizona. Bobby is on Dino in the Morning, Sirius XM Sports Zone Radio, Sirius 92, XM 208, hour number 3 on this Friday. Hi, Bobby.
Yes, good morning. How are you, Dino?
Hi, Bob.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, this is what I wanted to say about that. I like women who look like women, and I would agree that there's a line there where you have to be careful that you don't cross as far as the visual appeal. But I don't like women that's thin, like they miss too many meals. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, I know what you're saying, yeah. You don't want that emaciated look. I understand that.
Right. And
But that doesn't, listen, big, full-figured women really don't work on television too often. They don't get a lot of jobs.
Yeah, well, that's where you have to know what you're talking about to be able to, to capitalize on the areas that you're lacking in, know what you're talking about, and be able to, bring that across.
Is that right? So tell me what I don't. Tell me. I'm interested. School me here. Tell me what it is that I don't know what I'm talking about. Go ahead.
Well, I know it's just like I said. It's always saying different strokes for different folks. But I like.
No. Hold on. What you said to me, I agreed with. Okay. Then I said to you that full-figured women don't get a lot of jobs on television. And you said to me, that is where I need to know what I'm talking about. Now, this is a very subjective topic overall in society when we move it away from the visual medium of television. And you are entitled to your own likes and dislikes, your wants and needs, and you have your own subjectivity on these issues. And I do not deny them to you. But you just told me that I don't know what I'm talking about, and now instead of you telling me what you like in regard to television, where I said that full-figured women are not in demand, you said I don't know what I'm talking about. So now I am demanding that you tell me what it is that apparently I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is this, Dino, that
you do not deserve to be on my show, sir. You do not deserve to be on my show. You have come here unprepared. And in the last 5 minutes, you have not only wasted my time, you have wasted my entire audience's time across this country, from north to south, east to west, and all the points in between. Now, I demand of you that if you are going to be a participant on the show again at some point in the near future, sir, out of Arizona, courtside Arizona, that you come to my show with your shit together and ready to go. Do not respond to me by telling me that listen, this is where it would help you, Dino, if you knew what you were talking about. Okay, fine. You can make that statement, but now back that statement up and prove your statement to be true and prove me to be wrong. I said full-figured women are not in demand in the art of television. His response to me, well, I like well, hold on a second. I didn't ask you what you like. I didn't say what you like. What is it you like and what you dislike? I made a comment that is factually correct. You told me I didn't know what I was talking about. And so when I ask you to tell me why I'm wrong, you have no answer. And now you try to steer the conversation in another direction. That's not going to work here on this show. It's not going to work. Where is Frazier? In Nashville, Tennessee. Okay, I see it now. Frazier's in Nashville, Tennessee. He's on Dino in the Morning, Sirius XM Sports Zone Radio. Hi, Frazier.
Hey, what's going on, Dino?
Hi.
So, man, that last guy was quite a trip. I don't think he's at liberty to tell you, the radio host, you don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, so I just had a question. Michelle Beadle is one of my favorites, but, you're so right. There's the Shelley Smith woman, and, God, she's just, bloated. And every time I'm watching sports, you got Erin Andrews, you got Samantha Ponder, you got all these beautiful women, and then they have Shelley Smith, and I'm just sitting there wondering, where's the demand for something like this? I mean, who made the logical decision, the rational decision, though it may be or seem irrational? Who decided to put this woman on TV? I can't agree with you more about the demand. It's just not there. My question, though, for you, Dino, is what's wrong with Michelle Beadle? I haven't noticed the weight gain. That's not to say that there hasn't been one. I just
there has been one. Oh, absolutely. If you saw Michelle last night, there's been a weight gain going on with her. And you mentioned Shelley Smith. See, Kaplan, the Shelley Smiths of the world, that's the exception to the rule.
Yeah, she's the outlier.
Right. That's the one they got to put on every now and then. See, we make decisions based upon journalistic integrity. Bullshit you do. Okay? And I can't take any of these women seriously anyway. All right? It's an easy path, I guess, to get on television because they're looking for tits and ass, and they're looking for pearly white teeth and a nice smile and nice legs, and a nice booty. Fine, good. But don't tell me these women are sports journalists. Okay? They don't know shit about sports. Erin Andrews doesn't know a damn thing about sports. Carissa Thompson doesn't know a damn thing about sports. Okay? They're reading off of cue cards. They're reading off of pre-prepared statements that are either on a teleprompter or something that they've memorized, for 12, 15 hours. All right? And they dress more like cocktail waitresses, Kaplan. Then, listen, you look at the attire that a lot of these women are wearing on these shows, okay? Are you going to tell me that in a business setting somewhere that these clothes would fly?
No, it's like they're going to a club.
Of course. I mean, come on now. Let's be serious. This is a show that is grounded in reality. We don't talk bullshit here. We don't talk political correctness here. I mean, you want to tell? I had Rick Riley, that douchebag, who still for some reason is with ESPN. I mean, you want to talk about just a shit for brains individual. This guy calls my show unsolicited when I was doing a local afternoon drive in Denver years ago, and he's trying to tell me that Susie Kolber knows as much about the NFL and knows as much about football and this is going back now to, when was this? This is 2002. So this is 11 years ago. And he's trying to tell me that Susie Kolber knows as much about football as anybody else on television who's talking about football. And I said to Riley, Rick, you sound so stupid. You sound so naive. I mean, how have you risen to such prominence in this industry with such absolute moronic thoughts? My goodness. Mike is in St. Paul, Minnesota where the Minnesota Wild are going to hit the ice in a few weeks. Thank goodness, as the NHL is coming back soon. And Mike is on Dino in the morning, Sirius XM Sports Zone Radio. Hello, Mike. Well, hold on, Mike. Hang on there. There we go. I'm sorry, Mike. Hi.
Hi, Dino. Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, sir.
Good. I want to agree with you and make one point about your take here on the women as far as being overweight and being a little bit on the heavier side and being in the media world. Of course, you're right. Let's face it. If we see some girl come on and do the weather, she probably doesn't have any knowledge. Her epistemology on weather is probably zero. Her knowledge of sports is probably zero. As an audience, we're just looking for ratings. We're looking for women who look appealing. Now, my point is, I don't understand, and I know you don't agree with the human resources and all that bull crap. How do they get away with it in the media world, in the television world? Discrimination. How do they get away with the discrimination there? But everywhere else you go, you can't be racist. You can't be discriminating people. You can't be this. You can't be that. And all this bullshit that goes with human resources. How do you get away with it in the television world, but not everywhere else?
Well, I think the answer to that is that there are very few jobs to begin with. There's not as many jobs in television or in the broadcasting arena as there are in so many other occupations. So I think that they get away with it. I think it's entertainment, and in entertainment, you're given much more latitude. I think they take advantage of that. Now, let me give you mentioned human resources, and here's an excellent kind of lead into what Mike in St. Paul just mentioned to me. And the reason I remember this now is because he just said the words human resources. Take Carissa Thompson, for instance, okay, with Fox. And she was with ESPN. She was with Fox, then went to ESPN. Now she's back with Fox, and she's part of the new FS1 family of what they're doing there. And this girl walked out. Now, listen, why is Carissa Thompson where she is? Because why? Because she's got this enormous volume of sports knowledge in her head? Because she can go back and talk about Super Bowl VII with specific details? Because why? And she grew up in the Seattle, Washington area. Because she can recall chapter and verse the history of the Seattle Mariners and the Seahawks? Is this why Carissa Thompson is on Fox Sports 1? No. Why is Carissa Thompson even in the sports media industry to begin with? Because why? I mean, other than the fact that she's a very good-looking girl. Other than that, tell me why. Look, I worked with Carissa Thompson when she got into television in Denver because my own show was on Fox Sports Rocky Mountain at the time. This is a girl who walked out of the Human Resources Department on Pico Boulevard in Los Angeles, working for Fox in an administrative capacity having nothing to do with on air. And, of course, with her being very good looking, she got to know some people and said, hey, I'd love to try this. And so you know what they did? They said, hey, we might have something here. Look at her. I mean, if she can read off a teleprompter, if she can read a script, if we can get her comfortable in front of a camera, who knows? We might have something here. Well, how come we might have something here? Because we're so impressed with her sports acumen? No. We're very impressed with her physical anatomy. So you know what they did with her? They sent her to Denver as a training ground, and they worked with her in Denver, and they coached her, and they put her on air, and and she is where she is right now because of the way she looks. She doesn't know anything about sports. Not really, she doesn't. And this is the way it is in this industry. It's the way it's always been. Darrell, in one of my favorite western towns of Tucson, Arizona, USA, is on Dino in the morning on Sirius XM Sports Zone Radio on this Friday. Hi, Darrell.
Dino, keep going, man. You're making me laugh my ass off, arguing with all these idiots who don't know their ass fall on the ground. But have you ever noticed?
Have I ever noticed what?
Have you ever noticed, though, you take the female sportscasters here in the States compared to the female sportscasters over in New Mexico, they're totally different. The ones you got over in New Mexico They wear short mini skirts, big breasted, a lot of cleavage. And I asked, because I drive a truck, and I asked the guy in California, a Mexican, one day, why they got the women like that. He said, well, number one, for ratings, and I said, well, do they have to know anything about the sport? He said, yes. He goes, they have to know about that sport before they could even, be considered to do something like that. And that's one thing that you really don't see over in the U.S. sports.
I'm kind of missing the point here you're trying to make. You mean in Mexico, not New Mexico, in Mexico, they've got women on the air that have got to know something about sports? Okay, I don't know what Darryl was trying to get at there. It really kind of confused me, to be honest with you. To Trucker B, driving a big rig in Jackson, Mississippi, USA. He's on Dino in the morning on this Friday. Hi, Trucker B.
What's going on, Dino?
What are you doing, Trucker B?
Man, I'm doing good. I go on vacation for 2 weeks, come back, and all kind of chaos break loose on the other station. Man, I had to find you, buddy.
Well, I would imagine that we're going to have a lot of promotion here at some point. But, yeah, we made a quick transition from the channel I was with previously to this new channel here, which is going to be, when it's all said and done, better than the channel that I came from. But go ahead.
Okay, yeah, because last I heard you saying there's a lot going on, and, yeah, can't say nothing right now, but y'all stay tuned. And I come back, everything break loose. Well, I'm glad I found you. And those that just tuning in, y'all just hang on. Y'all in for a shock of y'all life. It'll be a good morning for y'all. But as far as these women is concerned in our sports, in any sports, Dino, now, don't get me wrong. I love women, but there's a place for everything. Just me speaking, I don't think women should be in our sport because they got nice bodies. They don't know nothing. They're airheads, and I don't know that.
Let me ask you this. Your point, Trucker B, is very well taken. And here's what I'll say. How many women? I mean, let's all think about this now, and let's come to a conclusion here. Again, in the real world, not in the fictitious bubble world, the politically correct world that so many of you live in. Let's come to a definitive conclusion here. If getting into the world of sports media for women meant that they had to cover exclusively women's sporting events, women's sports issues, how many women would make an all-out pursuit of wanting to get into the sports media? How many? Would you be able to lop off a good 80 to 85% of the applicants? Personally, myself, I love women. Okay? But, name for me a woman in the sports media right now. In the sports media, I didn't say off the sports media because plenty of women know plenty about sports, okay? But I'm talking about in the sports media. Name for me a woman in the sports media that can talk about sports in the deep levels with me, have conversations about, the 1969 San Diego Padres, the 1977 Montreal Expos, the 83 World Series. Give me a woman that can talk with me in the sports media about the NHL. On beyond Sidney, knowing who Sidney Crosby is. Where is this woman? It's why women can't do sports radio. They can't. They're not equipped. And they don't have the ravenous appetite for sports that is necessary to be effective in the spoken word format. For more examples of that, look, why do you think that Erin Andrews left ESPN? Because Erin Andrews is, like most women in sports media, particularly on television, she's a one-trick pony. perky, hair looks good. Now, listen, I'm not a big Erin Andrews fan, even from an aesthetic standpoint. I've never thought her to be drop-dead gorgeous, as is widely reported by people. But again, different strokes for different folks. It's a very subjective thing when we talk about visual aspects. She wanted to do more at ESPN. So they put her in a couple different roles to see what kind of skill set she had, what kind of diversity, what kind of talent. There was none there. The only thing she's good at is sitting in front of a teleprompter and reading off a teleprompter. Anybody could do that. You could train a monkey to do that. Breezy Point, New York. Eddie is on Dino in the Morning, hour number 3 on this Friday. Eddie.
How are you, Dino? I just want
Hi,
to let
Eddie.
you know that, are you there?
I'm here, go ahead.
Hey, Dino, son. I just want to let you know I'm very happy for you. Have your morning
Thank you.
spot. I haven't been on Twitter that much. I've been on a nice bender for a while. But I realize that you're back. I've been checking your website. Very happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
How many times do you think Michelle Beadle blew Carton from Boomer Carton?
I don't know. Does she know Craig Carton? She know him? How many times? I'm not aware. I don't even know if does she even know Craig Carton? I don't even know. I know I wouldn't blow Craig Carton. I know that. I wouldn't go anywhere near Craig Carton. No talent hack. Listen, most of the guys here you are saying, Dino, you're saying, you find me a woman that knows anything about sports that's in sports media. I got news for you. It's tough for me to find guys in the sports media that really know anything about sports. So this is not unique to one specific gender, believe me. Most guys don't know shit about sports. Oh, goodness. Casper, Wyoming, USA. Brad is on Dino in the Morning on this Friday. Hi, Brad.
Hey, Dino, good morning. It's great to start off the morning with you. It's a beautiful morning. I want to talk to you about, I think you're missing something about the subject of women in sports media. I was at a Broncos kickoff party last night, and there's about 16 people there, and about half of them, 50%, were women. And there was some young ladies, my daughter included, 15, 16 years old. Every one of them, are sports fans. And the media, I think, has helped change that. I think that these young ladies are a little bit more entertained, especially with the NFL, by the fact that there are women there. And granted, as a guy, I'm there, and I'm happy to see beautiful ladies on TV, obviously. I'd rather look at an attractive gal than one that's not. But I think that having those gals there has changed it for that next generation of sports viewer. And that, and also the fantasy game. Every one of those girls had their cell phones out there, smartphones, checking their fantasy scores. I mean, it was astonishing to me to see that. Because,
fantasy.
That didn't happen when I grew up. The gals went in the kitchen.
Fantasy doesn't impress me at all. Okay, that doesn't impress me at all. Anybody can do that. I just got done saying though that there are far more many women that are not involved in sports media that know a hell of a lot more about sports than the women that are in sports media that are on television. Okay? I know women who don't even like women in sports media. How about that? Oh, goodness. Kaplan says we got to take a break. I can't keep going here with phone calls. Listen, I want you to talk to Tim Sabian. I don't want to take breaks.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
I don't want to take breaks. This taking breaks is for the birds, man. This is Sirius XM radio. It should be break-free radio. That's what it should be. I'm back with more. Hour 3, Dino in the Morning, Sirius XM Sports Zone Radio. This is Sirius 92. This is XM 208.